Hey, welcome to Caching in the Northwest. You know, this is the podcast from the birthplace of geocaching right here in the great Pacific Northwest. Now, it's Thursday at 9 p.m. Pacific, and they call me Chris of the Northwest. And we're going to talk about geocaches and geocachers from here and all around the globe. So while you're trying to figure out how your kid grew 3 shoe sizes in one summer, we'll be caching in the Northwest.
Yes, indeed. And tonight we're talking about the Wheel of Challenges.
Thank you for saying it right.
Wow, I worked hard on that. And we are thrilled to have our guest, Gas Station Tuna. Welcome.
Hi. Glad to be here.
So glad you're here. And so glad that you're all here in the chat live audience. Share your thoughts with us too. Of course, I'm Wits End, and it's time to bring in our tuna-loving Tamarind. Some say he uses a GPS when he gets lost in his own thoughts. And others say he's created an army of mechanical otters to do his bidding. All we know is he's called Len Monkey.
Well, that plan ought to work.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's all I got. See you guys next week.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's always good to talk with you.
Yeah.
Or talk at you.
Yes, indeed. Hey, well, before we jump into much more of this fun stuff, let's remind everybody that we appreciate the support of our patrons who help to keep the podcast coming each and every week. A thanks to Land Sharks, one of our corporate Denali level sponsors. Hey, folks, just so you know, if you were planning on stopping by the store, there's new store hours at the Landshark store as they adjust to some staffing changes this summer. Their store hours are changed to Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and they're no longer open on Saturdays, at least not for now. So keep that in mind. But if you need the latest and greatest, check it all out at Landsharks, LANDSHARKZ.ca. And folks, don't forget our other Denali level sponsor. That is Gold Country Geotourism. Visit exploregoldcountry.com. Learn more about the geotours, the region. This time of year, very important to go to exploregoldcountry.com and plan before you go because, you know, things are on fire and you need to not go where things are burning. But not all of Gold Country. There is still Gold Country accessible. So plan your trip. Enjoy your trip. Visit exploregoldcountry.com and don't forget to download the app. And folks, well, let me tell you a little something. You got your seatbelts on? This is groundbreaking information I'm going to share here. If you want to know more about supporting the show, click the Patreon link on the cachingnw.com, a website.
Now, while I approve that message, I've heard that somewhere else before.
Are you Chris of the Northwest and you approve that message?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it's time for those commercials again. I thought we were past them, and then they come back.
Every fall, right?
It's never ending.
Yeah.
It just goes on and on and on.
Without a doubt. And Land Monkey, you brought up about the fires, and I just want to say our thoughts and prayers go out with all those affected by fires all around the world this year. It seems to be, quite the issue. So,
yeah, well, particularly across the Northwest, that's for sure. There's we've got more than our share.
Yeah.
All right.
So, with that said, if you guys want to join in tonight's chat, and we do, we love the fact that you're in the chat with us each and every week. Use the hashtag wheel. That sounds like a wheel of hashtags, but it's not the same as what we're talking about. Use hashtag wheel to mention something for the chat, and we'll force our guests to answer any of your questions. And then, of course, you can use hashtag.
Thanks for that.
Hey, you're welcome anytime. I just wanted to see if you were actually listening. I was just going to try to slide that by.
Yeah.
Oops. Okay. He's a sharp one, this one.
Mm-hmm.
You can use hashtag FTAS if you want to bring up for the after show. It doesn't have to do anything with our topic, just something you want to talk about. And of course, use the twin hashtags of podcast baking and podcast drinking to tell us what you're consuming this evening.
I have done rundown of beverage and snacks. So
Oh, that's a real
It's
shame.
just all show notes from here on out.
Wits End is only business from here on out. No more fun, Wits End.
Zero fun, sir. But this is fun. Let's talk about some news, because news is always fun, isn't it? Yeah?
Sure.
Well, geocaching news is fun anyway. Recently, HQ's data team, did you know they had a data team? Team. I love teams.
Yeah. I didn't know they even played data. That's cool.
Right. They set out to approximate how many DNFs are unrecorded. Sounds like kind of an interesting conundrum, doesn't it? So they conducted a study of 3,500 traditional caches, because we all know that those Earth caches go DNF'd a whole lot more. Maybe did not even look, but that's another thing. They took those 3,500 representative caches from the US, Germany, France, and the UK. Why those four? Well, because those four regions account for 58% of the world's active caches. They're pretty cache-dense regions. Approximately 200 experienced geocachers visited caches in their areas to evaluate the DNF rates, container and log conditions, as well as characteristics of each of the cache locations. And in the majority of cases, people were evaluating caches that they had found previously. They claim the survey achieved a 99% confidence level from the results. And how can you argue with that? Because 87.2% of all statistics are made up on the spot. The study found that actual DNF rates were 3 to 5 times higher than what was reported in online logs. Some countries showed true DNF rates near or above 20% compared with 6 to 8% in online logs. And not surprisingly, countries with more engaged cache owners have lower actual DNF rates on caches. So it's a little tip to cache owners to stay engaged, stay involved. Caches whose owners have not shown any obvious activity in the past 5 years had actual DNF rates almost twice as high as caches whose owners were active in the past year. A lot of stats to throw at you there. So basically it says when DNFs are not logged, engaged owners, well, they're less likely to know that there might be a problem with their cache. So
What happens once they're married?
Nobody has time to go caching anymore.
Ah, okay.
In cases where the owner is no longer active in the game, then that happens. Not logging a DNF delays the process of bringing the cache to the attention of the local community volunteer reviewer. So, to those who always log your DNFs, thank you. But if you're among those hesitant to use the DNF log, consider using the data team's findings the next time you find a cache. When the geocaching game board is more healthy, we can all have a whole lot more fun playing this here game. So don't be afraid. Log your DNFs if you find the cache if you can.
Right. The quick question.
That's even more fun.
Do you think that they're taking notes, like from the written notes? That's where, like, I looked for this before, but didn't log a DNF, and
That's a possibility.
That could be.
That's possibly where it is, or or they found it. I've looked for this 5 times before, but I finally found it today and never logged a DNF.
Yeah.
Or they're just tracking you.
Maybe they can. We can neither confirm nor deny that.
It's the chip they put in your ear at the 20th anniversary celebration.
Yeah, it was in the punch.
It barely even hurt. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about.
I can't even feel it anymore. No. I thought it was interesting that DNF rates were 3 to 5 times higher than it was reported in online logs. Were they actually looking at the geocache logs to see if they were
the paper
DNF?
logs?
Yeah, the paper logs.
Yeah, you log a DNF on paper when you don't find a cache, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, on the cache log. Yeah.
DNF, throw it in the bushes and hope somebody finds it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I couldn't find that.
I just thought this was very interesting. I would like to know more about the details of this study and how they got their information. But
and I think that's to Gas Station Tuna's question, right? Like it's intriguing to try and figure out what data were they mining to come up with these stats. So, it'd be interesting to know more.
Get Brian Roth on the phone.
I was just going to say we should
Call him
follow up with somebody at HQ. Exactly.
Wet Coaster says, I signed the log as DNF when you can't find it.
Maybe that's just dense national forest.
Oh, yeah. Seaback Tribe says, I will log my DNF if I've given a good effort based on the D rating. I mean, I know there was one cache here that I looked for, I can't tell you how many times, and I logged a DNF in the beginning, but I'm not going to log 7 or 8 DNFs because that's how many attempts I had. I just didn't think it was needed.
Well, I mean, I won't log a DNF if I know that it was found yesterday. Because I know it's there. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but it's one of those things where if I know it's there, but I just can't find it, and I'm just stupid enough not to be able to locate it. It is what it is.
Yeah, I like it for my own stats too, though, because then I've got that DNF logged on that cache, and maybe somebody did find it yesterday, and I can't find it today. Then I keep track of, okay, there's one that I need to go back and find again because now it's a blue frowny face on my map. So
yeah, I hate that. I'm not a big fan of the blue frowny faces.
I don't think anybody is, but I use it as like a sort of a tracking tool.
Right.
I got a message. No, I'm sorry. I got 2 DNFs on one of my caches. The 2 people went out together. They couldn't find it. And I wrote them then in the messenger and said, hey, do you want a hint? And sent them a picture. They're like, oh, great. Now we know where that is. Yeah. And went back and found it. So they turned that frown upside down. But that's because, the owner of the cache contacted them and said, here's the hint.
You were an engaged cache owner.
Yeah.
But that brings up an interesting side note because we're already off on a DNF tangent here. If there are 3 or 4 of us in a group, do you log 3 or 4 DNFs? Because usually we say, oh, you're going to log a DNF. That's good. That let the cache owner know that we didn't find it, but I don't know that there's always any benefit to everybody logging an individual DNF log.
Well, after 3 or 4 DNFs, the cache health rating goes way down.
Yeah.
And the reviewers are alerted. And then the CO is told, hey, go check on this. So
yeah,
sorry, I'm a bummer. Yeah
no. I'm not disagreeing. I believe the mechanics of that work very much like what you just said.
Yeah.
And so the answer, Jim, to your question from my perspective is it depends. If it's like Gas Station Tuna was saying earlier, the scenario where somebody found it yesterday, I'm just being a dumbass. And if there's 4 or 5 of us looking and we are all being dumbasses and it's probably there, then we'll just, 1 DNF will do for the group. But if it's a scenario where it's the area looks totally torn up, like if nothing else, there should be maintenance. Like CO should probably go and check. Then maybe there's a reason to have all 4 DNFs logged.
I got an email from GSM times 2 this week. It says, speaking of improving the health score, right? So we're talking about maintaining your caches. He asked if we could expand on last week's comment in chat that posting an owner maintenance log improves the health score. He's been told it resets the health score. And so, that maybe we need to talk to somebody at HQ about the health score and what really goes into it and how it's calculated, because do 3 or 4 DNFs tank it and a single owner's maintenance brings it back, or does it help to restore it?
We have 2 reviewers in within our 20-mile radius or something, and they are the resetting of the health score is a big deal. So if you have a bunch of DNFs and you go in and do that, we've been told that that's the way it is. So
there you go.
Definitely helps to do maintenance.
Yes,
you should be doing maintenance anyway, though, right?
I went and did maintenance on my caches the other day.
Should be an engaged cache owner, do the maintenance and put that owner maintenance log in the system.
If you've got that red wrench for needs maintenance, the only way to reset that is to do an owner maintenance log.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Well, I feel like we've spun up our own short version of the podcast here.
In case you missed last week's, here's what we talked
right.
about.
Duffy's come on to help us
episode.
redo last week's podcast. That's great.
Yeah.
On last week's episode,
Yeah, we'd have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling kids. Well,
I know we should go on. I'm sorry. Gas Station Tuna has plenty to talk about, but Lost Ken says, where do you find the health score? You can't find it. It's hidden. It's a secret thing.
It's like, can you see the wind? You can see the effects of the health score on your dashboard.
It's a DNF for the health score. You can't find it. So it there?
Oh, but bump. Wait, I think I have that. There we go.
yeah, it's a hidden metric, says Brailang. Check the help center for more info.
Maybe we should actually go read that, and we could have a whole talk on that instead of just guessing.
And save 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of fun to speculate.
Well, it's always fun to go off on a geo trail.
Mhm.
But let's head back to the main trail, shall we?
Okay. Hey,
Let's talk about what? Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't know if I can say this right, but we're going to talk about the Wheel of Challenges.
But before we get there,
Okay.
we do have a couple of phone calls that I promised last week, and I must play this week.
Did they call 253-693 TFTC?
That's exactly what they called. And I accidentally answered the line because somehow Google Voice has changed that it just rings right through to my phone. So apparently, if you wanted to talk to me at any time, you could call that number. Don't right now.
And when you say anytime, day or night.
Yeah, it seems so.
2 a.m. Pacific time.
But nonetheless, we got a call from Limax. And you know what? I'm just going to jump in and we'll play his voicemail because he explains himself much better than I can.
Good day, gentlemen. This is Limax again. Kind of a follow-up to my previous voicemail that I left.
No, you don't want that one first.
You can't follow up with the first one.
Good day, gentlemen. This is Limax. I am a few weeks behind on listening to podcasts, and so I am just now listening to the one on cache maintenance. Listening to you talk about interesting things that you have found in caches. Mostly what you're talking about right now is firearms. I have actually found an unfired shotgun shell in a cache that I found up in Morgan Territory, which is a bit north of where I live, close to Mount Diablo. Kind of not surprising, although there really is no hunting allowed up there. But then again, not surprising. Found a lighter in another cache up there, but of course we know lighters are kind of found quite a bit sometimes. The one interesting thing is that I accidentally mistook one time a crack pipe for a geocache because of the design of the pipe itself. It was a kind of a glass affair that had like wires and things like that in it, and I assumed it was some kind of a weird container. Except that when I smelled it, it's like, oh, I know what this was used for. Anyway, it went with me, and I made sure to dispose of it in a certain manner when I had a chance to. That's my interesting story. Good day to you. Talk to you later.
And now, somewhat unsurprisingly, he calls back with more details. I know. I just blew the surprise, didn't I? Yeah.
Hi. Good day, gentlemen. This is Limax again. Kind of a follow-up to my previous voicemail that I left. Wanted to let you know that there were some friends of mine that were out caching one time that actually did find a dead body by a cache. Of course, the police were called. I talked to them afterwards, and I could tell there was still a bit of trauma in finding something like that. One of those things that I hope I never spot when I'm finding a cache. I think spiders and snakes are bad enough. Bye.
Well, thank you, Limax, for calling in. And you can call in too. Yes, you, the one driving right now and
How would they
listening
do that?
to this podcast.
What would they call?
They would call 253-693-TFTC. And look, see how much more fun it was to listen to it in somebody else's voice. And you go, oh, that's what Limax sounds like. I wonder what so-and-so sounds like. Well, you could contact them through the message center and say, hey, call in and just say something so I know what your voice sounds like.
I wonder
That's
what
not
gas station tuna sounds like.
I was going to say, if you've wondered what gas station tuna sounds like and looks like if you're watching the video portion, he's here live in the podcast. So welcome to the show.
Hi, guys. Again. Thanks for having me. Great. I'm great to be here. I love it.
All this time in, we're finally getting around to our guest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, our guest hasn't been a wallflower through the podcast so far, which is good. So Duppy Gas Station Tuna, you and I met for the first time in person at the 20th anniversary celebration, which was great.
Good time.
Very good time. Got to chat for a while there. But your caching name, one of our favorites. We figure the name has to have some sort of backstory or significant meaning. So let's lead off with that.
Yeah, there's no real significant meaning. It was more of a just kind of dumb luck. Several years ago, a few friends of mine and I were headed to San Diego for a convention, and we stopped off for gas at an Arco or whatever it was. And one of my buddies went in to go to the bathroom and get some drinks, get some soda, and he came out with 2 tuna sandwiches. And as we were finishing pumping gas, he actually finished the 2 tuna sandwiches, and we told him, "You're eating gas station tuna, you're gonna die," basically. and he, nothing happened to him. But based on that, I made a Gmail address so I could spam him. I made a Gmail address so I could spam him and just prod him a little bit. And nothing's happened. He's graduated now to like grocery store sushi. But I had an email address. That email address empty when I happened into the geocaching world. I didn't have to make a new one, so I said I'll try this one, see if I like it, and it just kind of stuck, and that was it. So here I am.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Lost Ken says he looks better than I did after dollar store sushi. Looking good there, Tuna.
I didn't eat it. That's the only reason. I didn't eat it. Talk to Howard.
I have had grocery store sushi, but I can't say I've had gas station tuna. But now I've met gas station tuna here on the podcast, and we're glad you're here. And as Line Monkey said, it's one of our favorite geocaching handles to bring up. It always brings a smile to people's face. So that's how you got your name, and that's what you used when you started geocaching. But how did you get started in the game of geocaching itself?
In 2016, which is when I started, my daughter was mostly listening to, she was doing a lot of reading, but also listening to audiobooks. And there was an audiobook series called The Boxcar Children, which is kind of like a young kid's Nancy Drew.
I've heard of it.
And it all took place in the 1930s, and they solved mysteries every book. And she came in to my wife one day and said, "We have to go to geocaching.com, a website." And my wife said, "What are you talking about?" And well, I heard it on the audiobook. Well, it's 1930s. Turns out they actually have the Boxcar Children. They've modernized it, and it's up to today. And one of the books was all about geocaching, and it was about about the kids who were trying to find geocaches. It turns out all the geocaches in the town were stolen, and it ended up being that the guy who owned the caches took them so he could fix them and put them all back. So he didn't,
I think I've seen that story in real life.
I know, right? Who's the real villain here, right? So anyway, based on that, my wife called me and said, "You got to go to geocaching.com and see what this is about." I watched the video of, the woman eating the watermelon and the whole thing. And based on that, I created the basic account. and I use the gas station too in the Gmail, and from there, that's it. I got hooked, and here we are, a family of geocachers.
That's awesome. That's a fun origin story there.
Yeah,
very enjoyable.
I've often wondered who that young lady is eating watermelon. She has to be a lackey, but I don't know which one.
She was. I don't think she works there anymore.
I know. I think her stay was short-lived, but yet her video lives on.
That was the watermelon.
And is it still?
I feel like they've updated it. Haven't they updated it?
There's newer versions.
Okay.
I was going to say I have to admit I'm not familiar with watermelon eating cashier woman. So
she was a woman. She was just like standing in front of a white wall eating watermelon, and then the music comes on, and she dances a little bit, and she throws the watermelon, and then she goes finds a geocache under like a picnic table or something. It was
that explains why Land Monkey does it every time we go out caching,
right? As one does.
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
he's got several in his trunk. He keeps around,
just explaining some things to me now.
Yeah,
just to have
get this cassava out of the way here.
Awesome. All right. Well, true story indeed. Back of the Jeep filled with watermelons. You never know. So Duppy, and maybe I should explain that. Gas station tuna has another name, as we all do, which is Duppy, which is shorter to say than gas station tuna.
It is, but no less confusing. Yeah. So that's my real name. So
there you go.
Don't wear it out.
Okay, well, I may. So I'm going to apologize for asking your name. All right.
Carl McKenna is trying to end the show by doing that.
He's a troublemaker.
Yeah. Well, we'll deal with him later. All right. Hey, so we're going to talk about the wheel challenges tonight.
Yes.
And one of the reasons, Deppy, I reached out to you is because you are a prolific Wheel of Challenges social media poster.
Yes. I don't know about prolific, but I've just discovered over the past 2 months or 3 months Instagram. I know it's been around. I've been on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now, but I've just recently, within the past 2 or 3 or 4 months or whatever, gotten into Instagram, and I just like it so much better, and I can do so much more. And I figure if I'm going to take a picture while I'm geocaching, I'm going to put it on there. So that's kind of how this whole thing started, I think.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, I've been enjoying vicariously following your Wheel of Challenges adventures on the social medias.
Thank you.
But maybe what we can do is, if you don't mind, for those, there is a remote possibility somebody listening to this podcast is not familiar with the Wheel of Challenges. So why don't we give an overview, a recap, explain what it is and how it works.
Sure.
And how to properly pronounce it.
Yes, I know. I'm trying to keep it moving.
So the Wheel of Challenges, it's this year's Geocaching HQ's summer souvenir promotion, where each month between April and September or so, a challenge is given, and based on different levels of difficulty, you'll receive digital souvenirs. We're 5 challenges in right now, and starting September 4th, that'll be the last one, number 6. So,
okay, 6 in total.
6 in total.
And do we know what all 6 are? Let's just list what the 5 so far have been, and maybe I don't know. Yeah,
sure.
What 5 have we had?
The first 5 was Seeking Smileys.
Okay.
Favorite Fan, Out and About, Streak Star, and Iconic Cacher, which is the one we're in right now. And only Andrew from GCHQ knows what number 6 will be. We'll see what happens with that.
Well, what happens if he spins the wheel and it just goes to one of the ones we've already done before?
Or it spins and then goes back 1 full click and ends on whatever. Yeah, who knows? Yeah. I mean, we'll see. We'll have to see what happens with Andrew. I want his lackey tag more than anything at this point.
I have to say, his spins of the wheel have been very good so far.
They've been great. Yeah. I love his. I love the backhanded taking the tag off the wheel too. Yeah. Very European.
Usually, whenever I spin a wheel like that, I just lose a turn.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. The sad trombone. Yeah.
There we go.
Close enough. Good.
There, we've played 2/3 of my sound effects, so we have to be careful as we go through the rest of this podcast. So these are the challenges, but really what's involved in each challenge and what do you need to do to get this digital souvenir?
Well, each challenge, the first challenge, which took place between April 3rd and the 30th, it was the Seeking Smileys one. This one was about seeing how many caches or Adventure Lab locations you could find in that month. And there were 3 souvenirs for this one. The easy one was to log 5 finds during the month. The medium was to find 10, and the hard one was to find 100. And I mean, 100 is hard. I mean, I'm really lucky because in Los Angeles, we are very, very cache dense. And right before this whole thing happened, there are 2 people that started putting out a bunch of caches. There was a guy who put out I think, almost 100 caches. Wow. So not that far away. So it was not that hard for me to get 100. But I could completely understand why people would be upset because there are areas that just, you've cached out the area. What are you going to do? Right. So, but that's the first one. The second one was favorite fan. And there were 2 souvenirs for this one. The easy souvenir, you had to reach 100 points, and the points were based on the leaderboard. So you'd have to reach 100 points for the first one. And the second one was 1,000 points. And the way you got points were if you found a cache with 10 or more favorite points, you got 20 points. And a favorite point on one of your own caches got you 50 points. So the better your cache, the higher you would be for in this one. And if you found any cache at all, you got 10 points. So it all added up depending on what happened. So
I was going to say that one worked out really well for me because I had just placed my my virtual reward cache just shortly prior to the favorite one, and so all of a sudden I started to get a few because virtuals often get favorites, and so started getting favorite ones. Like, oh well, this was easy.
I didn't realize you could place the virtual this late. Was there no end date to it?
I think it was. Well, it ended. When was that?
Did it end in April?
It ended, the end of March, and I had mine out just shortly before that, so it was pretty new. So.
I'm looking forward to the next one. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, and I think HQ has responded well to souvenir challenges in the past. They've either been too easy or too hard, and by doing multiple levels, I think they've been able to answer both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, that was.
I agree. And the third challenge was out and about. That was June 5th to July 2nd. There were 3 souvenirs, easy, medium, hard. To get the first one, you had to log a cache on 5 different days during the month. To get the second one, you had to log a find on 10 different days. And during the third, you had to log 20 different days during the month. So this was a really hard one, especially if you did the 100. Right. And also finding a cache. I did a big streak a couple of years ago. And at some point you just want to die. I mean, there's just nothing. At some point it just becomes not fun. So, I mean, 20 is not that bad unless you've done 100 like a week and a half ago. Right. So, but those were the 3 for the out and about, which brings us to the 4th challenge, which was Streak Star. And this is the one that I think made a lot of people angry on social media, on Twitter, or X or whatever it's called, and on Instagram. There were 3 souvenirs for this one. You got the first one by doing a 2-day streak. So another streak. You got the medium by doing a 7-day streak, and the hard one was a 28-day streak. So you went from the previous one being 20 days in a month to now have to doing 28 days straight. So you had one that was 100 caches, then you have 20. So it just kind of built up. And this one, I noticed significantly that there were people really upset about it, and people like, I'm not even going to try anymore because what's the point? What's the next one going to be? Which brings us to the next one. Iconic cacher, and that's the one we're in right now. And this one goes from August 7th to September 3rd. So we still have a few more weeks on this one. There are 2 souvenirs. There's an easy and a hard souvenir. The first souvenir you can get, the easy souvenir, is if you find a traditional and Adventure Lab location and attend an event. So get those 3, you get the easy souvenir. To get the hard, in addition to those 3, you have to find a virtual, an earth cache, a multi-cache, a mystery cache, and a letterbox. So some more rare types. I'm glad they didn't put a Wherigo in there, because Wherigos are really rare around where I am. Letterboxes are too, but luckily someone put one out recently. So if you get the first 3 and then get the next, you're good. So that's where we are now.
I think a lot of people had to do some level of traveling to get the iconic cacher souvenirs, particularly the hard one. Because as you say, right, Debbie, like if you've got virtuals or the more rare cache types in a short distance from where you live, you've probably found them already, unless
I was lucky enough that I was saving a virtual for a video I was going to do at some point, and I never did it. So I had the virtual, and there were plenty of earth caches. We're in San Fernando Valley and the Simi Valley. We're surrounded by earth caches, which I hate, by the way. No offense to anybody. No offense to people that love earth caches. They stress me out. I get in there. I don't know if I'm going to get the right answers. I'm always worried I'm going to put something there and get the smiley revoked. It's just this thing for me. So I had plenty of earth caches I could go for, but anyway, yeah, earth caches.
There you go.
Sorry, Jay. I know you're the earth cache guy.
You must have had some bad experiences with a bad earth cache owner who was mean to you or something.
No, we're not going to talk. Let's move on.
All right,
let's move forward.
Moving forward. So, hey, so you have done really well in achieving these challenges, getting the digital souvenirs. Like I said, I've been having fun following you on social media.
Yeah, so far I've gotten every souvenir possible at this point. And the last one, this one I decided to do all in one day. So that was an interesting thing, because the day I decided to do it, there were no events around me. So I set up an event because that was going to be the day that I was going to get the rest of them. And it turned out that was the day that Tropical Storm Hillary moved into Los Angeles. So that was what it was. And there was at one point I'm decided I'm not going to do this. Things are getting crazy. So I ended up, instead of being on freeways, I got on surface streets. And even then I was just like, things were getting bad. And then everything let up and it was okay. And then I was in the parking lot doing an earth cache. I was in a parking lot of an area around the earth cache, and my car started shaking. And I thought, okay, what's going on with my car? Like, is the car breaking down? Turns out it was an earthquake. We had a 5.1 earthquake not far away. So earth caches. Right?
Well, earth caches, or maybe that was just a bad day to do the challenge.
It's an omen. It's an omen.
But ultimately, I ended up getting all of the 8 caches that needed to be gotten on that day, and I got the souvenir. So I was able to get. So far, I've gotten the top souvenir of all 5 of these Wheel of Challenges so far.
So that was specifically how you got the last one. But have you had sort of an overall strategy as each of the new hurricane? Yeah, no kidding.
Yep.
GSM times 2 says
it wasn't that far from him. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. But yeah. So, do you have kind of a general strategy as the new souvenir challenges, as the next Wheel of Challenges is released?
Well, the big thing for me is just like have fun with it, right? I mean, if it's going to be stressful, why do it? And for some people, it is very stressful because you don't have to travel 50 miles or 75 miles to go get that letterbox, because you've gotten every letterbox in your area, or go get that virtual that's wherever it is. So the big thing is have fun with it. The other way I do is strategy. What is the challenge? Where do you need to go to do it? are you going to, traditionals are everywhere. Puzzles are everywhere. Try to solve some beforehand, just so you don't have to try to do field puzzles. And make your route and figure it out. So strategy. I mean, it's a chess game, right? At that point, especially with this iconic cache route in trying to do it one day. And I was very lucky to be able to do that. We'll see what next month says. I mean, it upset people. Some of it upset people just because of how it laid out, the 100 in a month and then 20 in a month and then 28. So, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with the rest of it. So
now, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, some people are just born to be upset, it seems. Yes. The old saying that they'd complain if they were hung with a new rope, right? I mean, come on.
So,
I think
sorry, you weren't.
The hard challenge should be hard. I mean, nothing worth having comes easy, typically. So
right. Well, I mean, people complained when things were too easy, right?
Right.
It was a situation where, Signals Labyrinth was like, I'm going to get the souvenirs no matter what, because I'm going to go out and cache normally, and I'll get what I need to get, and I have all the souvenirs.
Yeah.
So it gets to the point where kind of be careful what you wish for with this type of thing, right? So
now, gas station tuner, for someone like Land Monkey, he has to drive like 2.5 days to find an earth cache that he hasn't found already. So no, that's not true. Was it only 2 days?
Because I have strategically kept earth caches within a short distance of my house for every October.
Oh, there you go. Did you look for an area you could find all these icons in, a relatively short area, or did you plan a route and
luckily I have someone who lives in this house who set out a letterbox and a multi not far from the event that I held.
Good planning.
It was really good planning. That really helped. The earth cache and the virtual were very, very close together, and they were about 15 miles away from me, or as the crow flies, how that goes. So it was 20, 25 miles away from me. So that all worked out. And the traditional, I'm surrounded by, like I said, there was a guy who put out like 100 traditionals. So it all worked out very well. And we'll see what the next challenge is. I mean, who knows?
Well, that's a great point. What could the next challenge be? Do you have any ideas? Looking at the 5 that have already happened, do you think it'll be, find 100 earth caches?
Well, I mean, looking at the souvenirs, I have a little picture here of what the icons were, right? The first one was a smiley face. The second one was a heart. The third one was a car, right, out and about. The fourth one was a star, so star streak. The fifth one are these little coins, icon cache. The next one, the only one left, looks like 2 little pawns or little people, right? So in my mind, it's either going to be something about events. Or is it going to be one of those things like a friend to find that they had, 4 or 5 years ago? Go out and get people to join geocaching with you. I'm leaning more toward events, but I also thought that the star streak was going to be about favorite points.
Right.
So
yeah.
So who knows? The only person that knows is Andrew from GCHQ. Spin the wheel, Andrew.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Do it.
Well, and the best piece of advice I've taken from all you've said is have fun. Go out and have fun.
Go out and have fun. Right. If it's stressful,
right.
Yeah. Don't ruin your day if you have to go out and it's a game, right? I mean, go out and make it, just have fun with it.
Yeah. Sure.
So last weekend I went to the town of Bremerton, beautiful town, and Seebeck Tribe was there. She said, she's hosted a number of events over the last 2 months. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 events still yet on the schedule that she's going to host, along with other people there in the Olympic Peninsula that are hosting events. And if you need one for this particular challenge, there's plenty available here in Washington State. And while I was there, I went and did a couple of caches that people said, oh, you've got to go do this one. And I found the smallest letterbox I'd ever seen. And it was a true letterbox, takes you to a point, then, walk from here to here to here. And it was a cap nut, right? So it's a nut with a dome on it. And, you unscrew it and you look in there and there's a log and there's a little tiny stamp. It's an official letterbox.
That's a teeny stamp, right? I've thought of doing stamps on like making a pencil eraser.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just having that be it, so you can actually put it in a bison tube or something.
Right. But this one was almost smaller than that, but just about that size. It was the size of a pencil eraser, but rectangular instead of round.
That's great.
That's pretty cool.
I thought that was fantastic.
There's been some fun feedback in the chat here. Let's jump into some of this with our guest. I want to grab the one from Kitty Quest first here. So I'll pull this up. That one there. So let's talk about this. This is interesting. And she says, I noticed for a couple of the months that there was a huge leap from the middle souvenir to the top one. So from the silver to the gold. It would have perhaps been more amenable to more people if there had been a more even spacing. So
I think I've looked at some of the math on this. Okay. I've crunched some numbers. Yeah. No, there was one where it was find 5 different days, 10 different days, 20 different days, right? So you're doubling each one as you go. And there was another one that was, I think, 2 days and then 7 days and then 28 days. So it was like you multiplied each by 4. So there's some sort of metric going on, obviously. It's not just as simple as random numbers. I mean, of course, I could be looking at this. I'm reverse engineering this, so maybe it is completely random. But I completely agree that going from 20 to 100 is kind of ridiculous. It is hard, and there's a lot going on there. But based on the 5 to 20 to 100, it sort of makes sense. And again, people complained about things being too easy,
right?
And now they're not. So,
but my thought on this, and it was particularly around the first one, the Seeking Smileys, where it was 5, then 10 for the silver, the medium, and then up to 100. Like that's a big difference. And you're right. There's mathematic progressions in play as well. My thought on this was. And this goes back to our news story earlier about, grabbing data out of the data lake and crunching it. I'm wondering if they were looking at the active geocaching accounts and average find rates across the active geocaching accounts. Said, okay, well, the minimum that, anybody should be asked to be challenged would be, in a month would be 5. Like, everybody should be able to find 5 caches, even at the most entry level new account, active account. And again, active accounts, right? And then, medium, they went with 10. So I thought, well, that's like the mathematical median of those accounts. And then the 100 is up at the top, the upper end there, sort of almost like a Pareto principle kind of approach. That was my thinking, and maybe I'm overthinking it.
Well, I have one question. What is the Pareto principle? No. You lost me on that, but I understand
80-20 rule.
Okay, I understand what you're talking about. Okay, now, it's one of those things where, what are you going to do? I mean, it's HQ. Right, these are the rules they're putting out for the game, and we're just going to go, and you kind of have to just run with it.
Mm-hmm.
So either do it or don't, and don't beat yourself up if you can't get 100. Don't beat yourself up if you can't do 28 days in a row. Don't beat yourself up if you can't do all 8 of these caches because no one's put a letterbox out. Or you know what? Go out and put a letterbox. Do a letterbox.
Help your community.
Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
virtuals and earth caches are a different story, but go out and do it. You know.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
Good advice.
Exactly. GSM times 2 says when fun becomes work, it's no longer fun.
That's right.
So you stop doing it.
Yep. I think we've all had, anybody who's attempted a geocaching streak has found that point.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
J-Car, going back to the little icons and what you thought they meant.
Yes.
He says, I thought the star was going to be adding difficulty and terrain together to get X number of points.
Oh, yeah, because there's challenges like that.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. No, that's great.
Good
No,
point.
that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's still an option.
So many possibilities.
Yeah. Although I'm kind of with Deppy, like the two little icons on the last image
Mhm.
that's left. Kind of, my thought was very similar, Deppy. That it's like, oh, this must be like something to do with events. So attend an event or host an event or
Yeah.
something like that.
People. It has to do with people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or playing chess. I don't know. It's so we'll see what happens on whatever it is, September 4th.
Yeah.
September 4th when
Not
Andrew
that far
spins the
away.
wheel.
It'll be here before we know it. Yeah.
Kitty Quest says, I also think these challenges are much more or less difficult depending on where you live, not just your caching level.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think
again,
we've covered that.
Yeah, again, I mean, I live in an immensely cache dense area, and there are people who live in the middle of nowhere who they're the only cacher, right? So
That used to be Gilby out in the middle of nowhere with 5 caches, but
Used to
that's
be.
not the case anymore. But that's really, I mean, and I have to say you're caching level to an extent, right? If you're a brand new cacher and you don't understand earth caches at all, well, that's going to make this one very difficult.
I'm 4,600 in, and I still don't understand earth caches.
Well,
So
okay.
I mean, yeah. But
Mhm.
to your point, absolutely.
Or if you're in a little town in Idaho and, there are 6 cachers and there's only an event once a year. Well,
Right.
that
puzzles. Or puzzles. People hate puzzles, no matter
Yeah.
what level of puzzle it is. If they see
Right.
if they see the mystery icon, they're not going to even try it. So
Well, that's because puzzles are dumb.
says the earth cacher. Okay.
does the earth? Yeah.
Oh, Wet Coaster says, complete challenge caches to complete the wheel challenge. How's that for the last one?
That'd be like the end of Trivial Pursuit.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Funny.
Nice. Let's see. We'll do Star Cacher here. Thank you guys for speaking up and joining in the chat. We love. Sorry, my computer just seems to be a little slow bringing these up. He says, I hope the next is events, as our area active cachers are trying to complete a 52-week event streak challenge. So we have at least one event every week. We're getting kind of tired of attending events.
I feel like that would be fun for like the first 4 or 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And then at some point it becomes work. Like
Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of like going to work.
Scott was saying, yeah.
It's fun at first.
I actually, because I think this is an event, I actually I haven't submitted it yet, but I have an event ready to publish for the first weekend when this starts. So we'll see what happens.
I mean, can you guys imagine? Like, just imagine this: having to show up every week and talk to the same people every week.
No, I can't imagine.
Ah,
What would it be like?
that's
And not actually seeing them in person, but doing it over video chat.
even worse.
Man.
It would be worse for the people I talk to than it would be for me. I tell you that for sure.
or the people watching.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure.
Torture.
Bryling replied, he says, just wait till someone hides a challenge cache that requires an event on every day of the month. So 31 total events required.
I have a friend who's actually trying to get every cache type except for webcams, and I think there's one other, every cache type for every day of the calendar.
Oh my gosh.
He's a crazy person, but I love him to death. But that's what he's trying to do. So he's
They're
doing
going to
pretty
need
well
a
so far.
JT Coffee level notebook for that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now we have cachers in our area that are on a streak of doing an event a month for, a couple of years. And that's not too often.
That's doable.
Right?
I mean,
doable.
we have people around here that hold events a month.
Right.
Fu Manchu, you know Fu Manchu?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I know of him.
Okay, he does an event, coffee events or taco events every month. I feel like so. He's doing Geo Woodstock 20. There you go, Josh. Okay. There, I plugged Geo Woodstock 20. So if you haven't logged your attend, log your attend Geo Woodstock 20, please.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm planning on going right now, so I should probably go log my will attend.
Yes. Let's get this thing to a giga.
Yes.
Ooh.
For real. I mean, yeah.
I'll be disappointed if Geo Woodstock 20 doesn't hit giga. I mean,
yeah, it really needs everybody out there needs to log their will attend for that. And Josh is going to high five me later for.
Well, we should have him on the show soon, so we'll have to reach out.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're running long. We'll do this one from IHAM, who says, this isn't the first time the jump from level 2 to level 3 on a souvenir challenge has been logarithmic. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I said that was the last one, but this is really the last one, right? UDAC, who is in your area, right?
Yeah. No, we're friends. Yeah, she's great. She's great.
Says, I was thinking the last challenge has something to do with our friends in the leaderboard.
That
Leaderboard
related.
Or maybe add more people to. Yeah, that could totally happen.
Good thinking.
So there you have it, folks. Thank you so much. Gas Station Tuna, that was great. We'll have to have you back on to talk about more challenges or,
or other stuff
in your car during an earthquake. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
It's
we just
not
have
earth
you back on
caches,
to talk about
apparently.
anything.
Had a great time. Thank you.
And folks, thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest.
For sure. We want to take a moment to thank our sponsors as well, our corporate Denali level sponsors. That would be Landsharks, LANDSHARKZ.ca, and Gold Country Geotourism, both of whom are our corporate Denali level sponsors, and their support helps to make this show possible each and every week. Landsharks.ca is the outdoor adventure and geocaching store. Check them out online. And remember, they're shipping those online orders daily. And for absolutely amazing geocaching adventures, check out exploregoldcountry.com. And don't forget to download the app. Folks, we want to thank all of our faithful Denali level supporters. Not only is that Landsharks and Gold Country Geotourism, but it's also Team Squirrel, Groovy Owl, who I saw earlier today, Cool Cow Cachers, and Cachly, the geocaching app. If you want to know more about supporting this here podcast, well, head on over and click that Patreon link on the cachingnw.com website.
Now, I truly run the patrons through a randomizer each week. Okay. I said this before we started. Last week happened to be Gas Station Tuna. This week again, Gas Station Tuna. Something's going on with the randomizer.
You're number one.
Thank you so much, Gas Station Tuna, for being a patron.
Absolutely. My pleasure. I love the show. So
We love having you here. We'd also like to thank Wino Seattle,
And Greenwords,
Active in the chat, Seebeck Tribe.
Dora Moore,
Team Noltex,
Calling in, phoning it in, Limax.
Broncos fan for life.
Al Robrick.
How about You Talks to Rocks?
How about Genies?
How about CRS 98?
How about GeoNav Pro?
Just finding our way.
Our favorite kitchen appliance, the LG 9000.
Just Carlo.
Kev MacD.
Making cool geocache containers with flippity logs. It's log work.
Flippity. Speaking of flippity, GSM times 2.
Oh, yeah. Now home of the hurricane. Let's go back to geocaches.
And one of my local jeeping compadres, BC Rock Crawler.
Peach of Washington.
Flagman.
Antaeus.
Wet Coaster.
MC3 Cats.
Ackerdock.
Boomer 365.
J-Car.
Kitty Quest.
Our brand new one, Nervous Energies.
Oh, great name.
Welcome to the family.
Welcome. Subway Mark.
Mountain Bike.
The Camp Clan.
Skyhawker.
Kid Vegas 19. Saw you in the chat earlier.
And you, Dak.
B. Pendragon.
Trexer.
Segehove.
RAR285.
M-Nerve.
Ari 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Gorzgot.
There you go. Well,
right.
thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks to all of them, and thanks to Gas Station Tuna. Hey, if somebody wanted to reach out and ask you a question individually, or I don't know, just get in touch with you and tell them how much they love your caching name, how would you like people to reach out and get in touch with you?
I'm on Instagram at Gas Station Tuna. I'm on Twitter or whatever it's called, X at Gas Station Tuna. I'm on Facebook. Is it / Gas Station Tuna? I think
Sure.
that's what it is. And I'm on YouTube for my geocaching videos / Gas Station Tuna.
I'm sensing a theme.
Yeah, there's a theme here. We'll see what happens with whatever other social media pops up.
Whatever comes up next.
Something to be
We'll
said
see.
for
We'll see if my
consistency.
see if my name's taken on any of those.
Okay.
So.
I'm thinking you're going to be okay with that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Folks, thanks for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. Your support helps keep the quality shows coming. So if you like the show, click the Patreon link on the CachingNW.com website. If you didn't like the show, and I don't know how you could this week, let us know what you want to talk about. In either case, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a review. Now, if you were in a restaurant, you would tip. If you were in a live audience, you would clap. But since you're on a podcast, leave us a free, fast, fabulous, fantastic 5-star review. You can call into 253-693-TFTC, and I know it works. Anytime of the night, leave us a comment, ask us a question, or give us a big spin of the wheel. And of course, you can email us at feedback@cachingnw.com. Join us every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Pacific for a live show and chat. The show's produced by Chris Umfenauer, Jim Paulwitz, Jay Kennedy, and Brian Lang. It's licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license, copyright 2023 by Chris Umfenauer. And folks, I ask you to stay tuned for
The After Show.
the after show. I think we have some FATAS. I think it came in
I think
as our chat lackey said this is the last call.
Closing time.
Yep. Seebeck Tribe is only 129 fines away from 5,000.
well done.
Very cool.
And
That's
if I'm not
exciting.
mistaken, she's got that many events planned.
Well, and
Close
so
to
that gives her adequate time to plan to call in at that milestone and leave
Yeah.
us.
Yes.
And what's the number?
253-693 TFTC.
TFTC.
You know, anywhere you put in a telephone number to get free credits for food or whatever, put that number in. It just may work for you, and you could be surprised. Let's see. GSM times 2 says have GST. I'm sorry, GSM and GST, and I have
Yeah.
trouble reading.
I'm gonna be GST times 2 at some point.
No,
How
that's
does the
I've
guest
got
box
enough
be
tax up here. I don't need any more.
So I'll have to have you back about puzzles.
Okay. Oh,
Or
I know what
Earth
he's talking.
caches.
I know what he's talking about.
Your
Okay.
choice.
Yeah. Earth caches will be a much shorter show.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, all right, Northridge earthquake and the one I did the other day. So there you go too. Puzzles, that's great. No, I know exactly what he's talking about with puzzles, and thank you for that, Scott. It's all good.
Awesome. Sounds like we'll have to have an offline talk there. Sounds like there's a story there. All right.
Yeah.
UDAC found a cache on International Geocaching Day, so I wouldn't have to go out in the hurricane.
Good plan.
I mean, apparently she knew it was coming and
I was going
planned
to say,
around it.
you can probably know the hurricane's coming. I'm impressed people that UDAC knew the earthquake was coming.
Yeah.
Oh,
IHAM says we need a quick studio tour of the new land monkey digs.
oh, well, then people should probably subscribe to my YouTube channel because there's going to be one coming up on my that channel eventually.
Maybe we'll send one out to the patrons.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh, there you go. The patrons got a bonus last week.
Yeah, what was that?
A cartoon by one of our faithful listeners.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. The three of us here are not actually patrons, and you don't get to see the patron bonus.
No,
because
I
even
know.
though we're on the podcast, that doesn't mean we're a patron.
No, it was very funny.
So that was done by Wits End's very own sister.
Yeah.
You're going to have to share it with me, Chris, because I haven't seen this.
No, funny, you're in it.
Well, it would be nice to know what it is at some point then.
Maybe.
Okay.
We could do a patron special of just all of our studios if you guys are interested. I mean, there's not a lot going on, but you never know.
Yep.
And folks, we are over an hour. I need to end this episode.
Yeah,
Thank you all.
Sorry, guys.
No, not on you, man. You were a great guest.
Now, it was all your fault. Normally we're right on an hour. Now we're 7 minutes over. No, not at all. Gas Station Tuna, thank you so much for joining us.
My
And
pleasure.
until next week, get out, get something to eat at a gas station, and go caching in the Northwest.